Hey everyone, I've been meaning to do a video on the riots and the protests that have happened in the UK in the past couple of weeks, and it turns out that Ali Dawah has had a conversation about this recently at Speaker's Corner, so I think this is a good way to address some of the issues, because I think him and people like him are a big root cause of why this stuff's happened in the first place. So let's take a look.
What happened was horrific. My daughter is 7. I can't even let alone fathom what my daughter, if that was my daughter, in that dance club, just her, can't defend herself, a crazy deranged man with a knife stabbing people around, she's going to be the next. I wouldn't want to be in her position, let alone me as a father knowing my daughter was going through that and I couldn't be there for her.
Yeah.
I cannot even put it into words what the family's going through.
Yeah.
So I know what's happened is very disgusting, but to me what is more sickening is when people take advantage of these things that happen and use it for their own agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't think that's more sickening. And I think this is part of the problem with this whole thing. It has been awful, these riots and stuff, and there's been attacking mosques and intimidation and attacking some of the hotels and stuff that some of the asylum seekers have been in. But I'm sorry, as bad as those things are, they are not worse than 3 young girls being stabbed to death. I don't care who's using it for what agenda. At the end of the day, those murders are the spark that lit this powder keg. And the reason is because it's so terrible to have 3 little girls being murdered like that. So no, I'm sorry, it's not worse because some riots happened afterwards. And let's be clear, no one was killed in the riots, and I'm not trying to underestimate the fear that might have spread to whoever was in those areas, but nobody was killed and there were very few injuries. 3 little girls have been killed. That's much worse.
Now, if the far right didn't have, which I'm telling you, that their hate for Islam is greater than the love for those girls, they would have said, hold on a second, we don't even know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, he's like using some of the rhetoric that's come out of the Israeli Gaza kind of ongoing conflict all these decades, like talking about, oh, if they love their daughters more than their hate for Islam. I'm sorry, that doesn't really work. The whole point when that phrase was used, I think it was looking at like people doing suicide bombings and potentially using, their family as human shields and that kind of thing. That's what that's referring to. Now, whether you agree with that or not, that does not apply to somebody who, whether they got far-right ideology or not, whether they react in an angry fashion because little kids are being killed. It's really, you can't really use that same rhetoric in the same way. So it's just a ridiculous statement to make.
Let's wait and see. Tommy Robinson didn't do that. The far right didn't do that. The first thing they did was what? The rhetoric of indirect incitement of what? He was a Muslim that came on a boat that... Radia, where did you get that from? Where is it automatically that if your coffee is flipping cold, it's the Muslims? It's like ISIS. They were claiming responsibility.
Yeah, well, let's have a look at that question, okay? It doesn't matter who's putting out disinformation. Yes, that's a terrible thing that people put out false information about the identity of the person who killed those girls. But why is it that people were so ready to believe that it was some crazed Islamist who was responsible for it? Well, let's take a look at the last 20 years in the UK. We have seen the Manchester bombing, which killed amongst the 22 people that died, there were a number of children that died in it. There was over 1,000 people injured as well. You can look at things like the grooming gangs, which have specifically targeted underage girls. We can look at the various stabbings, that Tory MP, David Amos. You had the 3 guys that were stabbed to death in Reading in 2020. You've had the stabbings on London Bridge and Westminster Bridge. I mean, over and over again, we see this pattern, either targeting children or just randomly stabbing people in the streets. And when you've got those 2 things together and you've had all this previous experience of it, it's not that surprising that people were willing to believe it. Now, could you argue that's bigotry? I suppose on some level, but you could also argue it's just the experience of what's happened in the country in the past 20 years. Now, that doesn't justify the spreading of false information. But the fact that people were willing to believe it, it's not like that came out of a vacuum. It's because there's too much experience with this kind of thing going on.
For everything. Yeah. So much so, once I burnt my toast and I said, it must be ISIS. It cannot be any other one else. No, nobody else. For some odd reason, they always claim responsibility. So when I look at the far right,
Yeah, again, it's not some odd reason. There's a pattern of behaviour here.
Yeah? and I look at these individuals, I'm saying how sick in the head you have to be that you are attacking a mosque, you haven't verified any information. And then what does Tommy Robinson do? He does a video trying to give, a bit of context, because it's going to backfire. He realizes it's not a Muslim. But then he goes and attaches that story of the young girls and goes, yeah, but there are Muslims who are walking around with knives. And why did you have to bring a Muslim into the story? Why does there have to be?
I mean, what are you expecting Tommy Robinson to say? I mean, this has been his shtick for the last 10 years or something. Obviously, he focuses on Islam. But yet again, we have another person who's obsessed with bringing up Tommy Robinson. And to be fair, it's not just Ali Dawah, it's people in the media. It's even, I'm sad to say, and I hate to be kind of doing friendly fire here, but a couple of the conversations I've recently watched with ex-Muslims, who I think, of all people, should probably know a bit better, have also been like bringing up Tommy Robinson as if he is this major thing. I saw it with Apostate Aladdin arguing with Harris Sultan. He couldn't let go of this Tommy Robinson issue. And a similar thing happened on Infidel Noodles round table talk that they had the other night. Everyone keeps bringing up Tommy Robinson. He is a symptom. He's not a cause. The reason why somebody like him is prominent is because there are genuine grievances and genuine problems, particularly within parts of the Muslim community, and it's over things like grooming gangs and other violent acts and a lack of integration and all these social problems that have happened, as well as things like terrorism. Most of the rest of the country, in terms of the institutions, the mainstream media and the kind of political commentators and stuff like that, they don't want to know about this. They don't want to even recognize that there's an issue. There's so much excuse making. So when somebody like Tommy Robinson comes along and says, yeah, I recognize it's a problem, and not only that, he's going to go, interview victims of grooming gangs and stuff like that, then of course people are going to gravitate to him. But as I say, he's a symptom. He's not a cause. He would not exist if there weren't these problems already there.
Correlations like Daily Mail. They talk about a story, for example, about migrants. And they take a picture of 3 hijabi women doing shopping in Oxford Street. The picture they're trying to put in your head is the following. Subconsciously, migrants, evil, bad. Just remember these hijabis. Remember these women in veils. This is what we're dealing with. And
yeah, I mean, you can claim that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there are some media outlets who want to put out that message. But I think most people understand that a lot of the tension around migration, not entirely, of course, it's a more complicated question than that. But a big thing that has aggravated this is people like you and the minority, as they are, but a significant minority of Muslims, who basically have your orthodox conservative views. They are a complete anathema to Western values. Now, that is just a fact, and you are just a prime example of it. You run around the country stirring up trouble. You are encouraging Muslims everywhere to say, we need to basically have a caliphate, let's live by Islamic law, let's basically overthrow the democratic system here because it's superior, let's be constant conflict with the non-Muslims. You and Mohammed Hijab and Smarter Janet and all your cronies, dozens, probably hundreds of you, go round and foment this stuff. So whether you want to say, oh, well, it's an unfair portrayal. Well, yeah, of course, there's plenty of Muslims who are not like that. But there's a significant enough minority to create a problem. And people like you are the ones that go around really creating that tension more than anybody else. So to be pointing the finger at the media or anyone else is just ridiculous when you are a big part of the problem.
The thing is, look, as much as you feared for your life when ISIS was doing madness, I sometimes fear walking with my wife and with my children. I don't know what idiot is going to come with what brainwashed ideology that he's watched to come harm me. Look, I don't mind me, my family or my kids. So that's the fear I'm living in as much as you are. We're both.
Yeah, I'm sorry, fuck you, you're living with that fear. I mean, most of the time you hang out in London and you've constantly got your boys around you whenever you're at Speaker's Corner and stuff like that. And, I'd really love to see the receipts on this, that you've had some like far-right threat against you or something like that. I mean, it's, and I don't want to underplay the fact that, yes, there are racist thugs out there that are going to go around intimidating people and stuff like that, and it's appalling behavior, and they are scumbags. But the idea that they somehow represent some kind of equivalent threat to people in the way that Islamists and Salafists, essentially people like you or people adjacent to you, as if that is some kind of equivalent threat.
In the same category, me and you. You're an innocent person, Ryan. I don't know what you do. You work, you study.
Yeah, I work and study. Yeah.
Exactly. You've got a wife, girlfriend.
Yeah. Wife.
Exactly. You have kids.
Yeah.
Same. Imagine you're walking down the road and you're thinking, which maniac, Muslim, brainwashed ISIS member is going to think I'm a legitimate target and attack me? And I'm in the same boat thinking, which idiot?
No, you're not in the same boat. I'm sorry. That doesn't mean that there aren't, like, there haven't been racist attacks and stuff like that. Of course there have been, which have gone in all directions. But no, you are the idea that, like, the average far right or knuckle dragging racist is just going to come into, I don't know, say like a Muslim, predominantly Muslim school and start stabbing all the children. We know that there is basically zero chance of that happening. I mean, certainly in the UK. Now, I'm not saying it's not possible. I mean, obviously, there was the shooting in Christchurch in New Zealand some years back where Muslims were targeted and a bunch of innocent Muslims were killed. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm saying the UK has no history of it, and you know it. So for you to try and make yourself out as the victim is just unbelievable. It's so narcissistic.
Far right scumbag who's watching Tommy Robinson going to come and kill me.
Yeah.
Me and you are on this side of the boat.
Yeah. No, we are.
No, we're not. No, we're really not, because the point is you are part of the problem. The point is, in your ideal society, the man you're talking to, again, I'm not sure. I think he's an atheist. I don't know. He might be a Christian, but he would be killed under the society you would, as would vast swathes of people. If England converted to the kind of Islamic law that you promote, apostates would be killed, gay people would be killed, polytheists would be killed, atheists would be killed, blasphemers would be killed. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. So you are not in the same boat. You are basically another version of the far right. You are a fascist. You're in the same boat as them. So don't go crying about how you're a victim here. You're worried about your safety, because you are a threat to everybody else.
I agree. No, I completely agree. But it's just, to me, you've got to, I try and look at it objectively. I know there's obviously, I understand your perspective completely, and I think you've explained it very well. But when I look at things objectively, I think they were looking for a reason to be angry. They were angry at what happened. Everyone was angry. Nobody was okay with it. Everyone was angry. It was a sick thing to do. So when it came out, the misinformation from the Russians, let's say, or whatever it might be, people were looking for a reason to be angry at somebody. Who were we angry at? Who did it? Was it this person? Was it that person?
Why was it Muslims? Why did they?
Said it.
Yeah, for the reason that I've already explained, because sad thing to say is there is previous form on this, and it's not like there's been one or two incidents. This has been repeated. We've seen these kind of terrorist attacks, or these kind of random, well, not random, I mean these targeted killings, let's face it. Again, I mean, we can just reel them off again. Lee Rigby, you know, just in broad daylight, just essentially decapitated in the street. You know, we've seen, and even the plots that don't succeed. Like, I mean, people forget. Like, I mean, 2017 wasn't just the Manchester bombing. We had the London Bridge attack, Westminster Bridge attack, and there was also the Parsons Green train bombing. I mean, people can forget about that one because there was no people died, but there was still hundreds of injuries from what I remember. So, I mean, this stuff is just going on all the fucking time. So if people are ready to believe something that ended up being propaganda, okay, yeah, people definitely should look into things and not just accept any old crap that they read on Twitter or whatever source that they're looking at. And also, regardless of the identity, that does not justify going around trying to intimidate innocent people or threaten people or burning stuff down. But, like, as I say, why is it Muslims that people automatically assume? Because of the form, because of the fucking previous history. It
was Muslims. You understand my point? So there are people out there in the far right, and I agree, and they will look, say for example, it turned out to be a Christian, or it turned out to be someone that wasn't Muslim.
And it was a Christian.
Well,
he was
Christian. Christian family. We don't know if he was actually
he used to go to the church.
He used to, he was an actual practicing Christian. At the time that he did, he was practicing.
Yeah, well, to be fair, I mean, we see, again, you could almost accuse you of propaganda here, because we don't actually know for a fact what, if any, religious beliefs this guy has. You know, that information has been released. Now, yeah, the odds are he was the son of Rwandan immigrants who came to the country, and Rwanda is a you know, hugely majority Christian country. So, yeah, the odds are he probably is Christian. But, I mean, it's not entirely ruled out he could have converted to Islam. I mean, the kid's 17, he could have converted, who knows? But, yeah, I mean, it's unlikely that he was Muslim, but we don't know. And you're just assuming he's Christian now. So, I mean, it's kind of hypocritical for you to sort of accuse other people. Oh, well, why are you assuming this? You're assuming something you don't know.
No. Look, this is the issue.
He was a Christian.
Look, this is the point here.
Yeah.
When a Muslim does something bad, the far right automatically label it and connect it to Islam.
I agree.
When the Grenfell Towers were burning, the Muslims were coming from early morning prayers for Ramadan. So they were the reason why they woke up the neighbors to save their lives. When we would come and say, look, Muslims did something good, they would say, why do you have to bring Islam into that? I'm like, so when it's bad, it's Islam, but when it's good, it's not Islam. So when
well, no, that's not the case. But I mean, look, people make connection to the religious ideology for good reason in some cases. If you have a doctrine of jihad, which you do within Islam, now, you know, there's plenty of ordinary Muslims who will just say, no, well, you know, that's not something that we agree with. But, you know, people like you do agree with it. And the kind of Salafists and the Islamists and obviously the jihadists, they all believe that doctrine. So then when people are killed in the name of it, then, yeah, I think it's reasonable when they're shouting Allah Akbar, this is, you know, in the name of God and God is greatest and whatever, then, yeah, I think people are quite reasonably going to connect one and another.
What I'm saying is that person was a church-going. They're from Rwanda, 97% of the population.
You've got to be careful when you say church-going. He used to go to church.
Okay,
you don't know if he was currently in church.
The point I'm saying is this.
Yeah, exactly. You're still on this point. And to be honest, at this point, it's kind of irrelevant.
Say he's a church-going individual. People know what I'm saying because we suffer from that. People label this individual, he went to a mosque. His religion has got nothing to do with it.
No, I agree.
But why is it when it's a Muslim?
Well, it depends, doesn't it? If you going around saying that basically, like, well, for example, I mean, we'll come on to the grooming gangs in a second, but this man in the previous video that I done, which I'll link at the end of this, was explaining to a 16-year-old girl at Speaker's Corner why marrying a 6-year-old and consummating that marriage at the age of 9 is a good thing, right? And then you wonder why certain attitudes towards underage girls and their exploitation goes on. There is some connection there, and you are spreading that kind of ideology. So then to play all innocent, like, oh, why are you looking at, you know, why are you automatically equating it with Islam? Well, because of some of the shit that you say and because of what is said in the text.
Religion has got something to do with it. That's my point.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying is the church goer.
No, I understand. And like I say, I think the far right looking for a reason to be angry at the Muslims. And again, I completely understand what you're saying with that. But you've got to also understand that it came out and people generally believe this was the case. Now, if I were to say, and again, I'm not going to start making wild stories that never happened, but say if a Christian was to go and attack a Muslim family, for example, and kill innocent Muslim children, what would your reaction be? You would be angry. Of course you would.
I'll be angry.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a great question, isn't it? Because, I mean, we can do that as a thought experiment, can't we? Let's swap things around and say to Ali, okay, right, you know, whatever bigotry you might have experienced because of your race or because of your religion, would you swap that for, let's say, thousands of Muslim children being sexually exploited by non-Muslims? Would you be making an equivocation then? I don't think you would.
You would be very angry. Yes. And there would be people out there.
But I can't generalize.
No.
I wouldn't target church.
No, of course. But there will be people out there that maybe would do that. Maybe not you, maybe not people you know. But there would be people out there that would do that. And a similar thing has happened with the far right. And yes, I know there is an issue with the far right, like I'm saying. But you've got to understand that they were angry, and they did what they did because they were angry, and it was because of this misinformation that was being spread all over. And it wasn't just in one place; it was everywhere. And everyone was so certain. There was videos going up of people that didn't exist and saying this is the man that did it. There were fake names.
Yes.
You know, there was all these stories going around, and of course, people are going to be angry.
Okay.
But I understand. So your perspective would be they are looking for it to be a Muslim. They don't want it to be anyone else. They'd rather it be a Muslim.
They don't.
I appreciate that. No, I do. And there are people like that. Just as there are people like in the example I gave to you, if it was a Christian family and it was vice versa, there would be people. They would then go and attack Christian.
Okay, so yesterday, a few more attacks happened.
Yes.
You know, this is called the Dawah table. What we have behind you is our table where we invite people to Islam. A table like was attacked in Liverpool Street. Now, it's very clear that he was not a Muslim. Why are there protests being demonstrated now and they are attacking Muslims? So I'm trying to understand.
That's a good question.
No, but the point is this though, but it shows you they don't care. They just want, look, if they could, they would somehow magically blame him to be a Muslim. So where is this obsession coming with Muslims? Because...
Well, again, we've gone through this now several times. I can only repeat myself, is because of the previous four.
The thing is, to me, is the only people, or shall I say, state that you cannot criticize is Israel, Zionists. When they talk about freedom of speech, if there's any particular group that you cannot talk is Zionists. You cannot talk about Israel. Tommy Robinson is directly being funded by Zionism.
I mean, that's just 2 scoops of stupidity there. One, I mean, bringing up fucking Israel has got nothing to do with anything, nor has Zionism. And now saying that Tommy Robinson is funded by Zionists. I mean, Tommy Robinson is irrelevant largely in this. As I say, I mean, people can point to him and say, oh, well, we stirred some shit up or whatever. Whether he did, whether he didn't. Again, we're talking about the causes here. The root causes of why the anger is going. He's not a root cause. He's a symptom, as I say. And to be bringing in this fucking Israel bullshit, I mean, it's got nothing to do with it. This is just your prejudice.
Directly being funded. So the question I have to ask is the following. That's why I believe if they had a time machine and they went back and gave Tommy Robinson and Paul Golding 2 options. Go back in time, the girls will never be killed. Second option, they will be killed, but the perpetrator will be a Muslim. I swear to God, the sick man would say, I'll rather go back because you know why? It helps our agenda to get rid of Muslims. If we're going to lose 3...
That's absolute bullshit. I mean, you can believe that if you want, but it makes no sense. Regardless of what you think of these guys, I don't think that they are psychopaths. I don't think that they would actually sacrifice their children for a cause. I mean, again, it's ironic because, you know, this is the kind of thing that, say, Hamas are willing to do. And this is why he's trying to put this kind of equivocation and saying, oh, yeah, the far right would basically sacrifice lives just to get the Muslims. Well, no, they won't, because they don't have this jihadi mentality. They're against that kind of thing. So you can call them bad people or racist or scumbags or far right, and I'm sure some of them are. But no, they don't have the jihadist mentality.
Let it be so. This is what I believe. You know why? Because it doesn't come from me. Kaylin Robertson, who used to work for Tommy Robinson, told me clearly, I don't know if you know me, I went to one of his march, Tommy Robinson's march, and we got attacked. I don't know if you know.
Vaguely.
Okay, so yeah, we got attacked, freedom of speech. Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah, it was really freedom of speech, yeah. So he said to me, anytime a terrorist attack will happen, Tommy Robinson will get happy. That's coming from an insider. Meaning what? How?
Yeah, so what? I mean, whether it's true or not, you don't know either way. It's just some speculation. And again, he is not the point of what happened over the last couple of weeks.
How sick do you have to be that you are happy that a group of innocent men, women and children like yourself were killed? Why? Because it supports your agenda. Then now do you understand, Ryan, when I say his hatred to Islam is greater than his love for his people?
No.
That's where
Yeah, and again, I could put the exact same accusation against all you Dawah clowns who have been milking this horrible war in Gaza to basically prop up your channels. I could make the same accusation and say, well, all you are happy every time Palestinian kids die in the territory. It means you get a nice big boost for your channel because you can do this, you know, heartbroken video or whatever. And really, it's just you like grinning because you're going to make some money from all the views. Anyone can throw those accusations out. It doesn't mean shit.
I'm coming from.
No,
you might disagree.
I understand
and
it's expensive, but no, I can't accept that.
That's where I'm coming from.
I personally can't accept that Tommy Robinson, although...
Then why would he get happy over it when he hears, oh, who was it? It was Muslims. Okay, he's happy.
Have you ever seen him rejoice about people being killed by Muslims? Or did you see him rejoice when the 3 children were killed?
I have direct evidence from Kaylin Robertson, who told me he's worked with Tommy Robinson, and he was staunch. He was really, really close with Tommy Robinson. Yeah, they're the ones who arranged the events. Lucy Brown, Kaylin Robertson, and George. He said to me with his own mouth, he said, when a terrorist attack happens, Tommy Robinson will get happy. If this is true, this does not say...
Again, I mean, so, you know, I apologise for this bit of the video. It is a bit slow and he just milks this, goes on and on about it.
This man is a sicko. If it's true, he's a sicko. Yeah. And I believe it's true because I didn't pay Kaylin Robertson. He wanted the interview. We had an interview and he said this. And I said, you know what? I know he did. I know. I have no doubt this man is so sick. You know why? It's the same with ISIS. When certain things happen...
Yeah, bro. Again, I mean, it really does irritate me. You're going to compare Tommy Robinson to ISIS. Now, ISIS set up an Islamic caliphate where they reintroduced slavery, including sex slavery. They tried to genocide the Yazidis. They have caused mass chaos, killing untold numbers of people in a decade-long kind of storm of terror. And you're going to compare that to Tommy Robinson.
They get happy. You know why? Because it aids their agenda. Because they're like, we want to attack the Westerners. When the Westerners attack our countries, Muslims get aggressive. Yeah. We can brainwash a couple of idiots and get them into our... It works. The cycle continues. Yeah. And who is the one that gets harmed? Ryan and Ali's family walking down the road and getting killed. Yeah. We are the ones that are suffering. While Tommy Robinson...
Yeah, but this is the point, though. I mean, again, you're acting as if they want this to happen. The whole point is protesting about the stuff, about the killings and the abuse and everything else that's gone on in the terrorism. The whole point is you're protesting against that. You're saying that you want that to stop. So the idea that you would therefore also want it to continue, so you could therefore, oh, that would somehow help with the agenda. Well, how's it helped so far? We've had 20 years on and off of this stuff going on, and has it in one iota changed government policy? Has there been any accountability in terms of, going after the significant minority of Muslims who are not kind of either integrating or they're promoting kind of Sharia and this kind of stuff? There's been no change. If anything, the establishment has buried its head further and further into the sand. So the idea that he thinks, oh yeah, well, just a few more murders will suddenly help our case and then the whole situation be turned around. That is ludicrous. You're not living in the real world.
He's snorting cocaine with the donations that he took and sleeping with prostitutes. Yes, and by the way, he's known to beat his wife up as well. This vile man, he's the one who's in his...
Yeah. I mean, I don't, I have no idea what, whether these accusations are true against him, but I do know that you promote having, relations with very young underage girls, because I got a million times in videos I've seen you do it, and I've done a long review of you trying to explain that to another child. So as far as I'm concerned, you are way more despicable than he will ever be.
Nice house in a jacuzzi while me and you are bickering or fighting each other. This is what's happening, bro.
Yeah,
so that's where I'm coming from.
No, stop putting yourself in the camp of the rational, normal people. The rational, normal people are everyone who doesn't want to be involved with the far right, and that's whether it's far right white racists or whether it's far right Islamist thugs like you.
And I believe it's clear for them to now carry. They've got demonstrations happening, by the way, all through August, yeah. And we are being told, okay, we got tables that we open in Leicester Square. Be careful.
Yeah.
Why do I have to be careful, bro? The guy's not even a Muslim. He's not even a Muslim. What the hell do you want from us?
I think that is one.
I mean, I have no idea what he's talking about. With you're claiming what? There's a Muslim setting up a Dawah stall, or sorry, there's a non-Muslim setting up a Dawah stall that's being attacked. I mean, what kind of incoherent mush is this?
I do agree with you on that. I don't know why the protests are continuing, even though now we know this person's not Muslim. I do agree with that.
Hate us. They hate us.
No, why? We know why. Because those 3 little children were murdered. That is it. But any kind of incident like that in the past 20 years could have sparked things off. I mean, there was a riot in Oldham in 2001, which was the precursor for this, which was between, and there's various community tensions between the largely, I think it's largely Pakistani Muslim population that's moved in and the non-Muslim white population. That happened more than 20 years ago, and it's a kind of precursor. And when you look at it, funnily enough, I mean, the media was actually a lot more honest then. I mean, they were honest enough to say, look, there's been fighting between the 2 groups. There's been a lot of violence. They even acknowledged the fact that there was more violence coming from the Muslim community than it was from the non-Muslim community. There was actually a BBC report I found. I'll try and link that into the chat. I mean, long gone are the days when you'd see a report like that on the BBC. But I mean, the point is this stuff has been bubbling over for a long time. And while the issues around immigration are not just Islam, most of the tensions in the last 20 years have come with certain elements of the Muslim community and certain elements which people like you continue to spur on with your Sharia bullshit. Okay, so this is why, why I'm titling this video that you are partly responsible, because you are. People like you have this big role to play in making sure that Muslims don't integrate.
I trust they hate us, right? I mean, what's your stance on with the far right and what's going on?
I'm not far right.
No, I never said you
were.
No,
I'm definitely not far right.
I never said you were.
Obviously, I stand for British values, stand for British culture. However, I would not, for me personally, I would never have gone and attacked any mosque or anything like that.
No, we know that,
especially without confirming who it is, and even then I still wouldn't do it. It's not sort of what I would do. And I think the far right are problematic in their own way, but I think...
They talk about, what happened in Manchester with the police officer kicked that guy's head, yeah? I saw the footage where they were attacking the police officers, yeah? And to me, I was like, okay, at the end of the day, when we're talking, they were like, oh, look at these guys, they have a right to get their heads kicked in, they will hit the officers. Okay, firstly, there's no excuse to kick someone in the head. What they did was wrong for hitting a police officer. They should be dealt with, yeah? Not in that manner, but legally, yeah? But now, they are the ones that are throwing rocks, and about 40 or 45 police officers were injured. So, I don't understand. When it's a Muslim, kick it.
I bet, but let's have a quick look at that incident, because this is one of many things that happened prior to these riots kicking off. There was a whole bunch of different incidents, but this was a key one. This situation in the Manchester, I think it was the car parking area of the Manchester airport. Yeah, what happened there? The same kind of misinformation went out in terms of an edited clip that seemed to show just completely unprovoked brutality from the police against these innocent Muslims. Now, that was put out deliberately. Just as much misinformation, you could say, happened over those the identity of the stabber of those 3 girls. Turns out that once you saw the whole clip, those Muslims had actually viciously attacked the cops when they went over to arrest them. They broke a female police officer's nose. There was one guy was repeatedly punching another cop in the back of the head, who was the one who ended up stamping on the guy when he was on the floor. Now, I'm not saying that was right. I mean, it did look pretty vicious when that cop stamped on him. But when you look at the video footage that went beforehand, I mean, he was repeatedly getting punched in the back of the head by this guy. Now, I'm sorry, he's in a life or death situation there, and I can understand why, you know, that ended up getting so savage. Now, the cop should still be held responsible in terms of, yeah, you know, stamping somebody on the floor like that could have been potentially lethal as well. And he is being investigated and prosecuted. But what happened straight away after that as well? A bunch of Muslims went down to the police station where those guys had been arrested and taken in, and they basically started making threats. I've seen the video footage where they're saying, you know, basically, if you don't release them, there's going to be consequences. A big mob. What happened to them? No, did the police come and break them up? I don't think so, no. What's happened is the 2 suspects have been released. They're on bail. Who knows whether they're going to get charged or not? I don't know what the current situation is at this time, because it's all gone quiet, because there's been so much of a chaos going on. But again, I mean, you can understand to an extent why people say, well, look at it, you know, where was the police going and breaking up that mob of Muslims outside of a police station, where they are essentially making veiled threats that there's going to be violence unless you release these 2 people.
When the far right attack police officers, yeah, it's okay. Do you see what I'm saying?
What do you mean it's okay? There's been like 500 arrests, I think. 500-600 arrests by now. I mean, people getting banged up, and some people have already had like 10-year sentences or whatever. And I agree, anyone who's attacking the cops or rioting or burning things down or you know, intimidating Muslims, doing all this kind of bigotry or racism and stuff, and you know, threatening the communities, they should absolutely have the law come down on them. So you're acting like, oh, nothing's happened to the you know, far right or whoever was rioting. That's absolute crap.
Point is, why is it that one? You know what that shows? Dehumanization. This happened in Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
Hitler dehumanized Jews to such a level that when the time came to pull the trigger, people were ready, because they were seen as cockroaches. They made them look like they are some insects. They are violent. This is what happens.
Yeah, and you Islamists don't have any like history of dehumanizing, particularly Jewish people, dehumanizing apostates. I mean, this is the man who is on camera as saying, like, he is proud of the fact that if he had the power, he would institute a law to murder people who have left the Islamic religion. You don't think that's dehumanization? So, I mean, really, you're going to start talking about this?
Systematic way of dehumanizing, and that's the reason why, where you have incidents of a Muslim pregnant woman being attacked, stabbed, acid attacks, etc.
A pregnant Muslim woman being stabbed, I've not heard of that one, and the whole acid attack thing was proven to be a lie. So, what are you talking about?
Why? Because of this, and that's why we're here, to educate.
Because of what? Because of the reaction to essentially what has been, you know, Islamist violence for the past 20 years. And yes, there are various other issues around mass immigration that a lot of people aren't happy about. But the main petrol that's, you know, been poured on that fire has been the difficulties with people like you.
People and tell them, what's that got to do with my religion? Grooming gangs. What the flipping hell has grooming gangs got to do with Islam?
Yeah. I mean, you've got to be fucking kidding me to even ask that question. Again, I mean, from someone who goes around Speaker's Corner preaching that it's great to have sex with a 9-year-old. I mean, really? You're going to ask that question? I mean, yeah, you're going to say, oh, well, you know, we can do it in a form of marriage and stuff like that. So why are you grabbing girls off the street or whatever? But, you know, at the end of the day, you look deeper into the Islamic literature, and what happens? there are circumstances when you can take slaves, can't you? You can take slaves from the non-Muslims and you can do what you will with them. So it is not too far of a stretch. And when you talk about dehumanization, you should see, you know, some of the reports that came out of these guys who went on trial for these grooming gangs. The kind of dehumanizing language, you know, they're just kufr, they're just white trash, they're just, you know, they're nothing, they're filth. I mean, this is the kind of language, this dehumanization. And I'm sorry, there is a line to draw between the kind of Islamic supremacism that you spread, and it's also mixed up with kind of racial hostility there as well in a lot of those cases. But there's a clear Islamic supremacism that says everybody else is inferior to us. And I'm not saying that this is what the average Muslim thinks in the UK. Plenty of Muslims don't, but people like you do think this. And clearly people who are willing to do that in a grooming gang obviously think that. And you can see that there is definitely threads within the Islamic literature which will justify this in those Muslims' minds. So for you to stand there and say, oh, what's one got to do with the other? I mean, fuck you and your fake ignorance.
Trying to understand, mate, look, young girls, whoever they are, being groomed, yeah? Do you really think, I've said this before, if I had a white girl neighbor, do you really think I'm going to watch a group of Asians, or whoever the hell they are, grooming a girl and I'm going to go, oh, it's fine, it's not one of us?
No.
My religion tells me...
Yeah, you might not do that. What does that prove? We've seen that there's been hundreds of your fellow co-religionists who were willing to do that.
To stop evil, even with my hand. If I cannot at least speak out against it, if not hate it in your heart. So my religion says these groomers, or whoever they are, they were using drugs, not permissible in Islam. Sex outside of marriage is not allowed, let alone rape.
That is a lie. That is a lie. Sex outside of marriage is allowed if you have slaves. So you're just lying.
So I'm thinking, hold on a second. What grooming gangs got to do with Islam? I'm trying to understand. And there isn't.
Yeah.
And
yeah, you're not trying to understand. And I mean, you're going on about, oh, you're fighting this evil. Again, I will draw it back to the point when you are talking to a teenage girl at Speaker's Corner, trying to convince her that having consummated relations with a 9-year-old is morally brilliant. You talking about evil, you are the evil, as far as I'm concerned.
we look at paedophilia, go to Google and write paedophile, the most pictures that come, you'll see they all look like Tommy Robinson, middle-aged white man. They're middle.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to use this same stupid straw man argument. Yes, of course, there are sexual predators and child predators in every community. And given that 82% of the UK population is still white, of course, you're going to find the majority of sex offenders are going to be white. Even though when you actually look at the figures, I think it is underrepresented. But yes, you would still expect them to be the vast majority because that's per capita. The point is, these grooming gangs, they are incredibly heavily overrepresented by people from certain Muslim communities. And that's a fact. And this is another reason why people get pissed off with the police, because what's happened, I think we had 2 Home Secretaries in a row that said, look, we haven't got complete data on this. What data we do have shows that there is a heavy overrepresentation from certain parts of the Muslim community, but we don't have full data. You know, it's really patchy. So they said to the police, you've got to start recording the ethnicity and the religion of people who are accused of these crimes much more effectively. And what's happened, you know, years later, after I'm pretty sure there was 2 Home Secretaries basically gave the police an order to start doing this, and they're still not doing it. They went back years later, and I remember seeing the police, the BBC report just basically saying like, yeah, the police have admitted that they've not been doing it. So again, you wonder why people get annoyed. It's because of this stuff.
Age white men. Now, am I going to come and say, oh, I'm all the white? No, why would I generalize? There are evil people in America. There is a mass shooting nearly.
Yeah, but again, let's run the thought experiment. If it had been the other way round and all these grooming gangs were non-Muslims targeting Muslims, would you be standing there so magnanimous and saying, oh, I wouldn't generalize? Now, I'm not saying you should generalize, but I am saying it's kind of after it keeps happening over and over and over again. And a lot of these riots happened in places where there's been these high-profile gangs. When it keeps happening, eventually people are going to lose it. And, you know, for you to feign ignorance over this, because let's be honest, right? If it was the other way round, we would have already had blood in the streets a long time ago, and he knows it, and everybody who's honest knows that.
Every week, it's some white deranged individual. Do we come and say, oh, what's the problem? Is it connected to the Bible? No, there are scumbags everywhere. There are evil people everywhere.
Yeah, there are, and you're one of them.
We're just saying, let's come together and tackle the evil, but they call evil Islam.
Yeah, I would love the police to tackle you. It would be a great thing.
Yeah, I think, just to finish this point before I go as well, I think the far right will look for any excuse to be angry at something.
Yes.
Any excuse to be angry at something. And I think they're already angry. They're angry people, as we know.
They even beat their wives up. No, Stella. The Stella drink was known for wife beating.
The wife beating.
Again, we're going to talk about wife beating. I mean, it's just like the lack of self-awareness. You've literally got a verse in the Quran which allows a husband to beat their wife, something which he agrees with, and yet he's going to talk about wife beating. I mean, it's just astonishing.
Their team loses a fight and they're going to take it out on their wives.
Not all of them.
You're talking about sports, yeah. I mean, that is a tragically sad fact that yes, when England lose at the football, domestic violence does go up. It's a horrible truth. I'm not going to deny that. But it's not like that is exclusive to England or to the West or anywhere else. I mean, have you seen the kind of reactions that happen in Pakistan when the cricket, when they lose at cricket? I mean, I'm pretty sure there's been murders and stuff occurred because of that. So, again, people in glass houses.
No. There's some nice ones.
So yeah, I like to say, I think the far right looking for an excuse to be angry. They was given that excuse that they were angry.
Exactly.
It was wrong of them to do that.
Yeah.
And on that note, I say thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. It was a pleasure. You're a very nice young gentleman.
Yeah.
Here with your wife. Who you with?
Just my friend Nathan over there.
Okay, no problem. Just go.
Yeah, and I mean that's pretty much it. So Ali Dawah and all of his Islamist crew are a massive part of this problem. Now, like I said, earlier in the video, there are larger issues around mass immigration and its impact on communities in the UK, and there is resentment around it. But I have no doubt, and I think it's easy to demonstrate, that Islam is a major source of problem. There's been a multitude of people from different backgrounds been living in the UK now in reasonable numbers for a long time. And generally speaking, I'm not saying there's never been tensions, but generally speaking, people have got along okay, because most people who come to the country do say, yes, we want to live by the rules. We want to, integrate into the society and stuff like that. So while I'm not saying it's not been perfect, but generally speaking, things have gone okay. In the last 20 years in particular, 20 to 25 years, pretty much all the tensions that have come out in terms of racial tensions and religious tensions, stuff like that, has some way involved elements of the Muslim community. And to pretend that isn't the case, and for him to stand there and be, oh, God, what's going on? I can't work it out. Oh, you just hate Muslims. No. There are specific reasons why this is going on. And the more people bury their head in the sand, the more likely this stuff is going to reoccur. Anyways, I hope everyone enjoyed the video. I will be doing my Mohammed Hijab review video of his stupid TV drama series that he's done. I will have that up at some point this week. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.